everyone, and I'm delighted to welcome all our viewers to today's panel discussion on entrepreneurship development. Entrepreneurship probably is the most significant term at this juncture when the entire world is going through a crisis. But we believe every crisis brings a whole gamut of opportunity. And at this time, when the economic future appears quite bleak and we are quite worried with terms like layoff, unemployment, and sectors closing down, entrepreneurship is that keyword which will empower a nation to sustain and survive. This discussion is part of a series of webinars on entrepreneurship and innovation that is brought to you by institutions Innovation Council, MHRD's Innovation Cell, and AICT. Our panelists for today are distinguished personalities, veterans in entrepreneurship from EDII, Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. EDII is a pioneer institution in entrepreneurship, and EDII was established in 1983, and for more than last 3 decades, the institute is relentlessly catering to the entrepreneurial needs of the society, and it is also nurturing entrepreneurial culture in the country. And EDII runs its 2 years PGDM course, and also apart from that, cater to setting 12 centers across the states in India, and these centers are exclusively devoted to entrepreneurship development, and it has made a mark in the international area where it shares resources and organizes different kind of training programs. And our panelists for today are Dr. Sunil Shukla, Director General, EDII. Dr. Shukla's research and consulting interests include entry barriers to entrepreneurship, curriculum development, entrepreneurship, family business, management, and organizational culture. He has been helping various organizations and corporates in strategic planning and capacity building of employees, besides grooming their managers as entrepreneurs. And currently, Dr. Shukla is the national team leader of Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, GEM India. And we welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
And our second panelist is Dr. Amit Dwivedi, Associate Senior Faculty, EDII. Dr. Dwivedi is currently the head of the Department of Policy Advocacy. And in the year of 2015, Dr. Dwivedi received an award from Honorable Governor of UP for his contributions in the field of entrepreneurship development. We welcome you, Dr. Dwivedi.
Thank you very much.
And our third panelist, we have with us Mr. Mayank Patel. He is the CEO of Cradle, the incubator center at EDII. Mr. Patel is the CEO of Cradle, a center for advancing and launching enterprises. He has earned his Chartered Financial Analyst designation from CFA Institute, USA, and is an academician and an expert in banking and financial services. Welcome, Mr. Patel.
Thank you so much.
And today's discussion, we will concentrate on three themes majorly. One is entrepreneurial motivation, another is empathy and business idea, and also the business model canvas. But I would like to begin by asking all our 3 panelists that, we all are aware of the time, the crisis that we are in. And so let us begin by understanding this question. What is the importance of entrepreneurship in the era of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19? We probably would start from Dr. Shukla and then Dr. Dwivedi, and then Mr. Patel can reply to this.
Thank you, Dr. Mitra. It's a very relevant question, that what is the role of entrepreneurship or the responsibilities of entrepreneurs during this pandemic and post-pandemic. As in the beginning, you have said that entrepreneurship has been able to deal with several challenges, and I'm sure that very effectively entrepreneurs will be able to deal with this challenge as well, which has affected the entire globe. currently the entire emphasis of various governments, national governments, is on crisis management and saving lives as much as they can. But soon after this is going to be managed, I think the emphasis will be on how do we manage the economy. And it will be entrepreneurs, particularly MSME entrepreneurs, who will have to play a very, very important role. There are entrepreneurs who have come to the fore in response to solution of several problems. They have been able to come up with their various products, services, and I'm sure during this time also, immediately after we are able to do that, they will be coming with their own solutions and strategies. Already there are several attempts. One such attempt which currently we are doing, that is this online discussion. This is a technological solution to the problem. We are at different places, but we are able to discuss, and various institutions are engaging with their students, and lots of webinars, conferences, etc. are being organized, and very meaningfully these are being organized. So I'm sure that entrepreneurs will be able to play an important role in post-COVID as well.
Right, sir. And if you may give us your input, Dr. Dwivedi.
Thank you, Dr. Mitra. Yes, entrepreneurs are always very important people in the society. They always try to contribute a lot to the society, and this is again a very important time when they need to work and they need to contribute. In this pandemic, we often see they have devised many new business models to help the society. We are aware that a lot of e-commerce companies, a lot of other suppliers, they have identified many new ways to support the society. And this is basically required from the entrepreneurs, because they are getting everything from the society. They need to react on this situation. So as Dr. Shukla rightly mentioned that, yes, in education also, we are seeing that a lot of this video conferencing facilities have come up, and people are using all those facilities to deliver classes, sessions, and training programs. In almost every area in this pandemic time, people have come up, entrepreneurs have come up, and they are trying to do as best as they can to solve the problems of the society.
Right, sir. That's quite interesting. And Mayank, sir, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mitra. I believe entrepreneurship is going to play a big role in surviving this crisis and finding a solution for this crisis also. There may be a scientist who may come out with a vaccine for COVID-19, but there will require an entrepreneur to produce the vaccine on a large scale. There will be another entrepreneur who will deliver that vaccine from factory or a laboratory to billions of human beings. Also, during this time, it is the entrepreneurs who are going to come out with a very different models of doing business within the norms of social distancing and personal hygiene. Also, some entrepreneur has invented a facility like Zoom or WebEx, which makes interaction, sharing of knowledge, sharing of ideas together without personally sitting with each other. So this is the significance of entrepreneurship in this era, where entrepreneurs are going to drive the entire humanity from this crisis and bring them out together.
Right. So we understand that, we are at one hand, we are very anxious about what we are going through throughout the world. But then there is always a other side of the coin. There is always some positives. So, it's always wisdom lies in concentrating on whatever positives we have. And entrepreneurship is such a word that probably will show us the way in future. And with that, we would like to know your opinion, Dr. Shukla. And I have these questions which I was getting from viewers earlier also in the webinars, that what are the motivational factors which help in choosing entrepreneurship as a career option? And to start a business, which type of motivation is important in India? I mean, you can answer generally, and also what is India specific?
I would say that in general, there are three correlates for entrepreneurial motivation. Something which relates to the personal characteristics of entrepreneur. what kind of motives, what kind of traits he or she has. And the second is that what is emanating from the environment. What is happening? What kind of challenges? What kind of difficulties? And the third is the business idea or the enterprise that relates to the technology, the market, and all that. Based on that, entrepreneurial motivation comes. You might have seen that a lot of people who have been working in top positions in the government sector or in the private sector, and suddenly on a given day they decide to quit and become an entrepreneur, because they would have felt that yes, there are better opportunities and I would be able to match my qualities with those emerging opportunities. I recollect a theory which was pronounced a very, very important theory, and which came from this city only, city of Ahmedabad. Professor Dvijendra Tripathi, a noted business historian who has written, late Professor Tripathi, who has written Oxford History of Business. What he said, that emergence of enterprises is related to a constellation of forces, wherein he is talking of 5 such constellation of forces, 5 forces. One is societal values, beliefs, that what kind of values, beliefs are there. Based on that, somebody draws an inspiration, motivation. Second is that socio-political stability or instability. Third relates to the infrastructure, availability of credit, facilities, education, training, resources, all kinds of facilities which entrepreneurs require. The fourth is the governmental priorities, that what are priorities and programs of the government. And finally, the demonstration effect, contacts, networks. So these are all various sources for entrepreneurial motivation. Based on evaluation of all these factors, an entrepreneur identifies certain business opportunities and then assesses his or her ability to take that risk and mobilize resources, and then takes the first step in expectancy of reward. And that's the process of entrepreneurship. And in this process of entrepreneurship, role of motivation is very, very important. I would also like to mention here that initial when entrepreneurship is not a very old discipline. Hardly 50, 60 years of history we have. And initially people thought that entrepreneurs are born in a particular family or with an environment, and they can't be trained, they can't be groomed, they can't be coached. That was sometime in mid 50s or early 60s, a professor from Harvard, McClelland, came, and fortunately for us, for this part of the world, he conducted a series of experiments in East Godavari district of Andhra Pradesh, that is Kakinada, and documented a series of, they documented his experiments, the series of experiments in a book called Motivating Economic Achievement, wherein he successfully demonstrated that entrepreneurs are not inborn, they can be developed, they can be trained, they can be groomed. And what he called that entrepreneurial motivation, and central characteristic to that entrepreneurial motivation, what he said was achievement motivation or need for achievement. And then he suggested several exercises, methodologies to tutor, to coach, to develop, to train entrepreneurs. And a lot of institutions have taken the thread left by McClelland and have started entrepreneurship development program, the lead of which was taken by Government of Gujarat through GIDC, the first program when it was organized in the country in 1970. And since then, a lot of institutions have been organizing entrepreneurship development programs. But to sum up, the motivation plays very, very important. And if motivation is not there, probably it would be very difficult because of other factors. So that personal characteristics and that to entrepreneurial motivation within that personal characteristics is central to entrepreneurial successes. Thank you.
Right, sir. And as you were mentioning in your whatever you have said right now, that entrepreneurs can be groomed, can be trained. And so what would be the entrepreneurial traits and what are the entrepreneurial characteristics according to you, sir?
Research and various researchers and practitioners, they've been able to debate on this, and there is a trait theory, and then there is a competency theory. Trait theory that those who are successful entrepreneurs, they possess certain characteristics or tendencies, and the competency theory says that once they practice, then they are able to become competent entrepreneurs. In general, if I have to say, the basic enterprising tendencies are, as I said earlier, need for achievement, which is central. Need for autonomy is very important. Risk taking is important. That risk taking or managing risk, which is very, very important. Calculated, moderated risk taking, creativity and innovation, drive and determination, and an ability to believe in himself or herself, which is called internal locus of control. These are the basic characteristics, and if we are able to work on all these characteristics and also what you call learn from the environment through socialization practices, proper socialization, we are able to develop these, which results into the competencies. And Macri-Land, along with several others, they have conducted research in different countries to demonstrate that what actually makes an entrepreneur competent. So they have come up with a list of 15 such competencies through the multi-country research, and which is practiced by various institutions like initiative, proactiveness, concern for quality, efficiency orientation, systematic planning, self-confidence, ability to persuade and influence others, monitoring, concern for others' welfare, including your own employees. All these are the competencies. But competencies can develop only when you have that trait. The basic minimum potential, if you have, it can develop into competency. And it can make an entrepreneur different from others, more effective from others. And I think that is very, very important for entrepreneurial development. Even in development process, if you focus on this competency development, you can make or you can develop. The chances are that an average entrepreneur can also be developed into an effective entrepreneur, competent entrepreneur.
Okay, and sir, if you just mention a little bit from your personal experience, because we consider you almost a veteran in entrepreneurship. You have been associated with EDII for such a length of time, and as a faculty, as a director general, your research, your training are into entrepreneurship. So did you notice over the period of a time any kind of shift in students' behavior or even among faculty? Because there are so many faculty development programs that go on at EDII. So have you noticed any kind of shift for the better or for the worse over the period of a time in this entrepreneurial attitude or behavior?
Yes, certainly. I would say that we have been able to notice certain changes, visible changes, both among students and also among the faculty teaching entrepreneurship. Let me first talk about the faculty. EDI has been conducting faculty development program for last 30 plus years. And the kind of faculty members from various institutions coming for these faculty development programs, they may not be interested in entrepreneurship. They would have been nominated by their institutions. Out of that, they would come to EDI or attend program, go back, and often without understanding what for they were here and what are they going to do after the program was over. So that sense of purpose was missing behind attending these programs. 25 years down the line, now for last few years, we have been conducting not just one, but we have been conducting about 10 to 12 faculty development program ourselves in different parts. And we find that the nominations we receive, these are from those who are genuinely really interested in entrepreneurship, becoming either entrepreneurship educator, entrepreneurship researcher, entrepreneurship consultant, entrepreneurship advisor, counselor. And the institutions are also taking more and more proactive steps in getting their faculty members trained through these programs. So it is by choice, and therefore their engagement in entrepreneurship after the program is over is much, much higher, both in terms of the time that they spend, the quality time, and also the output that they are bringing. This is what the change that I think I have been able to notice. From amongst students, I would say that yes, our students coming for these programs are our PG programs. They are more confident, they are more informed, and they have a lot of knowledge thanks to the technology. And rather than thinking about conventional, traditional business ideas, they are thinking of knowledge-driven enterprises today. Earlier, the kind of students we would receive, many times they came from family businesses and they would think of joining, developing their family businesses. Today, besides joining and developing their family businesses, they are also thinking of doing something of their own. So they are trying to do something which is different, which is scalable, which is innovative. And Mayank also would agree that the student's profile or the incubator's profile, which he would be seeing today, is quite different. They are more tech savvy. They think out of the box, and they would have done some homework before coming to the institute. This is the change that we have noticed. In every batch, when we go for induction or when we interact with the students during first term, we find that difference that yes, this batch is certainly much more informed, much more enthusiastic, much more inspired for entrepreneurship than the previous batches. And this is a very, very healthy sign. And some of the students have done remarkably well. And I'm sure that this will continue to grow despite the pandemic challenges.
Would you like to remark on this change that we are talking about, Dr. Dwivedi and Mr. Patel, because both of you too have been associated with EDII for quite some time now and into entrepreneurship, education and otherwise. So what's your opinion, Dr. Dwivedi maybe?
So yeah, rightly Dr. Shukla mentioned about the knowledge-driven businesses. Yes. So today's youth is more focused on how they can develop a business which can be scalable across the globe. So they are thinking in those lines. They are not simply going for a very small venture which will simply earn the livelihood. They have this kind of attitude today, and they are researching a lot. The research work is a lot. You can see now in students, they are researching a lot before even deciding one idea. So knowledge-driven enterprises are coming up so fast, and students are quite informed. Dr. Shukla, I rightly mentioned that yes, information flow is so fast. People have a lot of information gadgets. They keep on exploring, keep on learning, and which is why the kind of enterprises are coming from the youth is entirely different than the enterprises that have come 20 years ago.
All right, and Bindit Cradle, yeah.
I also would like to concur with what Dr. Shukla and Dr. Dwivedi has said. That over the period, what change that we have witnessed is that more of technology innovation-driven businesses are interesting young people. They not only have interest in this kind of business, they are ready to give efforts, time to equip themselves in learning new technologies and then work on it. So this is the change that we are seeing, and because of this, I think in the longer run, we see more focus on technology-driven, innovation-driven businesses compared to the MSME kind of focus that we used to have earlier in entrepreneurship.
All right, and I would again come back to Dr. Shukla with one or two questions, then I would proceed with other panelists. And sir, I wanted to know that what is the role of family on the motivation of youth to start a business? And also apart from family, is there any gender difference in case of motivation to start a business?
Surely, there is an impact of the family. Let me support my view with an empirical research which I carried out for the Ministry of, at that time it was known as SSI and ARI, Small Scale Industries and Agro and Rural Industries. Now it is renamed as Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. They commissioned a study to find out that what are entry barriers to entrepreneurship. The four major entry barriers emerged. First one was something related with the attitude or lack of interest in entrepreneurship. Second one was a lack of desire to wait for some more time to gain experience or mobilize resources. Third one was lack of confidence. And the fourth was very, very important, approval or disapproval of family in choice of entrepreneurship as a career for the students. And we found that significant number of families had that significant say on career choices of their children. These respondents, mostly final year college graduates or those who were in the job with about 2 to 5 years of experience. So irrespective of with experience or without experience, they mentioned that the role of family is very important. Even though I wanted what my family members, major decision makers in the family, my elder siblings, my parents, my mama or chacha or anybody, they advised us not to venture into entrepreneurship unless and until I do this. Either I line up a job for me or do this or that. But somewhere because of their disapproval, we were not able to do that. And after working there for some time, few of them have mentioned that we have now decided and we have been able to successfully convince the family to take a plunge in entrepreneurship. So role of family is important. Even those who had taken decision to be entrepreneur, they also felt that yes, role of family is very important for us. And we would expect our family members to support us so that our motivation, morale, it remains high. Now that we have already decided to go for entrepreneurship, we expect the family member to support us, at least support emotionally. So role of family is important both for those who want to go for entrepreneurship or those who have already decided. Gender differences, at the competence level, certainly not. We have seen that students from both the genders in our classes and others elsewhere also, they decided, they launched their ventures, and I couldn't find either in the literature or anywhere else that one particular gender was inferior or superior to others. So it's all because of the personal characteristics, motivation, competence, your ability to mobilize risk, rather than because of being part of a particular gender. We also have been conducting this Global Entrepreneurship Monitor research, which is supposed to be the largest study in the world. About 60-70 economies participate every year. Dr. Dwivedi is also part of that team. We have noticed that the motivation for entrepreneurship among women participants also have been found very, very high. In some countries, up to the extent of about 80-84%, 85%. That inclination has been there. India also, it has been very high, except one place, which is Pakistan, surprisingly. The participation of female in higher learning education is not lesser than other countries. But for entrepreneurship, probably a little, lesser inclination or motivation. That is what the data says. Apart from that, I do not find anything. And another important observation for gender and motivation is need for achievement is supposed to be very high in men entrepreneurs, that they want to do something. They want to meet or beat standards of excellence, or they want to achieve something unique. Among women participants, when they decide, it is because of the need or desire for autonomy and independence. And they want to prove that, yes, they can do it. So that willpower to do something, willpower to be autonomous, willpower to be independent, that is significantly very, very high among women entrepreneurs. This is what we have seen. Otherwise, I don't think that gender plays any significant role in entrepreneurial successes. We have seen successful entrepreneurs from both the genders in the country. It's all about the opportunity that you get, either from the government or from support system or from the family. That is more important than gender per se. That's my take. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And that's really very promising for the future of our country and for women, that we are proceeding towards gender equality. So entrepreneurship also would be an area where men and women will be both equally with each other. And with that, I'll go to Dr. Dwivedi with my question, and maybe in the concluding section, we will come back to Dr. Shukla. And Dr. Dwivedi, we will talk about startup over here. Hello? Or shall we continue with Mr. Patel? And probably there is a little technical glitch with from Dr. Dwivedi's side. We will just wait for him to come back on the panel. And we were talking about, I would be interested to know from you about business model canvas. And if you can tell me, what is the significance of business model canvas for startup? Because a lot of students or even aspiring entrepreneurs in the middle age, they are quite interested for startup, but they need this kind of information. So what is the significance of a business model canvas?
Business model canvas helps would-be entrepreneurs, startup founders in crystallizing, focusing on certain critical activities that any business needs to, a business person needs to do in order to drive the business towards success. I'm just sharing a screen here for
Okay.
business model canvas.
Mhm.
If you can see, the entire business is seen from 9 different activities. It starts with what is the value proposition of the business. Then it moves on to the kind of customer segment the business is going to target, customer relationship, how the business is going to establish, channels through which business plans to reach out to the customers, how the business plans to raise revenue on money for the services or the products provided, what are the key activities, key resources, and key partners that a business needs, and what is the cost structure of the product or the service that any business may be offering. When the business is seen from these 9 perspectives, the entrepreneur gets a very clear idea what are his or the business deficiencies and what focus he needs to drive in his effort to overcome those deficiencies. At the same time, business model canvas can be used by an investor also. Ultimately, the objective of the investor and objective of the entrepreneur is same: to increase the wealth of the through the business. And by looking at the business model canvas, an investor also can get a clear idea about the strengths, weaknesses, deficiencies of a business. So this is the significance of business model canvas in a very nutshell.
All right, and that's quite, I think the screen that you have shared also is quite explanatory and helpful. And what are the elements of business model canvas, sir?
As I had just shown the elements also, the 9 elements of the business model canvas: value proposition, customer relationship, customer segments, channels through which to reach out to customers, revenue stream, key partners, key activities, key resources, and cost structure. These are the 9 elements of business model canvas. Generally, it is expected that a would-be entrepreneur or startup enthusiast will give a deep thought on all these elements, jot down his ideas, views on the element, and there would be a mentor, a guide who will evaluate his responses on each of the element, and this can become a very good tool for mentoring the enterprise planner also.
All right, and how exactly are these elements linked?
If you look at any business from a few critical perspectives, these 9 elements looks at the business from the perspective of the people who are driving the business, who are going to run the business. It looks at another perspective, the most important perspective I consider, at who are the customers of the business, who are going to pay for the products or services of the business. Then it also looks at the key partners, key resources required, and the financial aspects of the business from both the sides, from the cost side as well as from the revenue side. So this is how there is a link and continuous linking of elements in the business model canvas.
All right. And is this business model canvas be used only for startup, or can they be used for any other business as well?
I generally believe that the popularity of business model canvas has increased because of the startup education.
Okay.
But my perception is that any person who wants to start a business, or anyone who is, let's say, even a self-employed person also, can use this canvas to plan his activities, can plan his prepare his business plan. So if you look at it, business plan is sometimes a very complicated exercise. Business model canvas makes that exercise very easy and in a very directed manner.
Okay. And maybe my last question to you for the time being, and I wanted to know, you have been the CEO of Cradle, it is an incubation center, and what would be your advice for people who are going to initiate a startup business, and what are the usual challenges that they face? And there is the failure rate also is quite high. Sometimes this fear of failure deterred them from getting into business or entrepreneurial way. So what are the usual challenges, and what would be your advice that how they should what should be the mindset of people at that point, even if they face for a failure?
I generally believe that the usual challenge any startup founder faces is not being able to identify the problem that he is going to solve very precisely. They think that they have identified the problem and there's a solution that they are offering, but they generally have not gone much deeper into all the aspects of the problem, solution of the problem, and then figuring out how they can earn money by offering the solutions repeatedly to different customers. In this process, I believe one of the most critical thing is getting good quality team members. People are one of the most important element driving success of any enterprise, including startups also. So once these two things are in place in early stage of an enterprise or a startup, I believe the failure rate comes down and the probability of success improves drastically.
Okay, and you have been quite wonderfully, you have explained the BMC business model canvas. I would like some more examples from you, sir, regarding that. Probably, some example which explain the elements.
Okay, let me, if you take this simple example of even Zoom, the video sharing app that we have, what is the value proposition it offers? If you look at it, the value proposition this fantastic application or the product offers is that it enables people sitting at a lot of distance in different continents, different countries or different states to work together to exchange ideas. And they have figured out that there is application, there is a requirement of this kind of services in various segments. It could be corporate, it could be education, it could be government, and all of this customer segment, these are the identified customer segment, the users, they will be ready to pay. And the channels that they have figured out to reach out is create an app, everybody can download it. So it's very easy to distribute this product. They don't have to go door to door to deliver this product. Everybody will download from a server and they charge for it. So revenue stream is also in line. So these are, so I'm just putting the Zoom, evaluating Zoom from the 4 or 5 elements of business model canvas, like value proposition, customer segment, customer relationship, delivering more channels, and earning money out of it. So I think you can see that how this can be applied for any business. Be it, let's say, starting a petrol pump or a kirana shop, also can be planned using this canvas.
Okay, and what kind of support system is available for students when they want to, they are planning to be entrepreneurs? So, an institution like EDII, what can they do, or even the government what kind of support system actually they
The
one can
role of
expect?
EDI is in educating, training would-be or enthusiastic people looking for entrepreneurship as a career. In addition to that, EDI has promoted Incubator Cradle, where we provide support in formulating, focusing on their business idea, preparing their business plan, recruiting people, availing various government benefits as a startup. We also connect them with angel investors and VC for fundraising. We connect them with customers. We connect them with ecosystem enablers, other ecosystem enablers. Our overall effort is generally to ensure, look that any business idea gets converted into a viable business.
All right, and that gives quite a bit of clarity. And since we can see Dr. Dwivedi on board, and sometimes it's difficult to tame technology. And are you there, Dr. Dwivedi? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Or I think I'll keep it open. There is some problem on his part, and he's trying his level best. But the question that I had is, why a few startups grow fast? I mean, either Dr. Shukla or Mayank sir can really pitch in. So, if we are talking about empathy, business idea, let us concentrate on startup. So why a few startup grow fast, and why is it that they do, what is it that they do which is different from the other? I mean, success rate is very limited. So, Dr. Shukla, if you can tell us something about it. Or I'll just keep it open. I mean,
Mayank probably, I mean, since he has been dealing with the startups, technological startups, so he would be able to answer it better, but let me attempt. In general, for entrepreneurs, I would say that mortality rate is very high among the startups or new enterprises. Sometimes what happens that a professional coming from the college, an engineer, a management graduate gets excited with a particular business idea. And without checking up with the market, technology, or financials, he or she ventures into entrepreneurship without adequate preparation. And more often, the new entrepreneurs, they think that they can compete only with the on the basis of the pricing, but that's not correct. There are several other aspects that they may have to consider, and based on that, they launch their enterprises. So any such attempt without adequate preparations probably leads to higher failure among the new enterprises. Since you discussed earlier about business model canvas, I only just wanted to add that entrepreneurship also adds that value proposition. Mayank was giving very good example about this Zoom, taking Zoom, that what kind of values it adds. Entrepreneurship is also like that. It adds value to the training, grooming of a student, with or without immediate career plan of going into entrepreneurship. What we are doing is we are preparing the entrepreneur, the new entrepreneur, for taking up the challenges. And I would define that entrepreneurship is a state of mind. It's mindset. It's not that when you are trained as an entrepreneur, when you study entrepreneurship, you can only become entrepreneur. You can become intrapreneur. You can join an organization as an engineer, or as an employee, or a management graduate, as a banker, as a teacher, and you can become entrepreneurial. So this entrepreneurship as a state of mind, it often helps and adds value to your overall dynamism and the way you approach your organizations. That is very, very important. And I would also say that while it is important for entrepreneurs to evaluate opportunities, look at environment, assess own preparedness, resources, and launch entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurship is not a static phenomenon. Entrepreneurship is a dynamic process. once an enterprise has been started, 5 years, 10 years, 7 years down the line, there are going to be changes. There are going to be an environment, changes in environment, changes in socio-political beliefs, system, government priorities, policies. So entrepreneur has to be very, very sensitive to those changes. Entrepreneur has to keep himself or herself abreast with those changes and respond appropriately on time. Otherwise, they will be caught napping and the enterprise will be forced to close down. So it is very important for those who are starting newly that they do their homework so that mortality rate could be brought down when they succeed. And once they succeed, doesn't ensure guarantee that forever they will be successful, because it's a time of competition. They have to remain vigilant about what is happening and accordingly make changes in their policies, programs, products, strategies, and all that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That really helps.
Just to supplement what Dr.
Please.
Shukla was saying, yes, it is very important for an entrepreneur to be successful to review their products, their services, get from the feedbacks they receive from the customers. They have to be very adaptable. They need to listen to the market. They need to listen to the customers. I also believe that generally startups or any enterprise, when it is growing very fast, or one of the common trait is that there's a strong orientation towards selling of the product, strong orientation towards speaking to customers rather than spending a lot of time in the factory or a lot of time in the laboratory for the innovation. Yes, innovation is important. Factory production is also important, but enterprises which are customer oriented, customer focused, generally grow very fast. And they generally have very low failure rates. They make mistake, they learn from that mistake, but they overcome it, and since they have established relationship with the customers, they grow.
So I can conclude from what Dr. Shukla and Mr. Mayank Patel have said that perseverance and tenacity are two great entrepreneurial traits, and to have you back, Dr. Amit Dwivedi, on board is talking about perseverance and tenacity. You ultimately could manage it. And so I would like to ask you about startup. I was planning to ask you that before, that why a few startup grow fast, and what is it that they do differently, if you may say that, and also how startup can attract their customers. If you can speak on that, please.
So I hope Mayank has discussed a lot about startup, and Dr. Shukla already gave a lot of examples. Startups, yes, it's a different kind of venture altogether, and they are not traditional ventures where simply you have to invest money and you have to work for. But it has been seen in the literature that startups are basically following certain methods to conceptualize the business idea. And those who go by these methods, they certainly get a lot of success. And we have seen Silicon Valley and all good startups even from Bangalore and major cities. So there are four different Ds I'll explain. I have derived from the literature, and they discover the first phase of ideation is they discover a lot that what is the need in the society, what is the need of the customer. So they know the customer so well first. What is the need of the customer? They explore through discover phase. The second phase comes after that, and then they define the problem. So after discovery, they simply go for the to know the definition of the problem, that what is exactly the problem is, what is the problem and how we can take it up further. So after discover, they define, then they go for development process. So after definition, they develop the whole business idea into a bundle of products or a bundle of services. So and they invest a lot of time. So all those prototyping and testing and market, all those things happen in the development phase. And finally, they deliver. So there is a concept of design thinking also. People are using these four different Ds to develop a right kind of a product which has really value for the market and which is really
okay. And
startups who are doing good in this segment using all four Ds, they are better than, or they are different than those who are not following the right path to develop the product. So those who are going systematically, as rightly Mayank was discussing about, those who are really investing a lot of time in the ideation part, a lot of time in invention and the kind of innovation they are trying. So they are better than those who are simply copying the idea and trying to test again and trying to see the market potential. So it is always the uniqueness in the idea that helps a lot.
All right, and that's quite enlightening. And we are almost at the end of the discussion, but Dr. Amit, maybe we can, wind up with some views from your side. I was just thinking about it that for a startup, what should be more important, like revenue, earning more revenue, or attracting, repeated customers?
It's a very,
Maybe
very
we
valid
can end
question.
with this, yeah.
Very valid question, because startups are meant to earn money. Of course, the people are investing a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of innovation to earn money. Certainly, that is the criteria, that is the ambition and aim as well. But how to go ahead is very, very important. If they go by this route that simply they have to earn from the very first day, and then later on they can think that, yes, if I'm earning every day, I'm certainly going to be successful. But it has been seen that those startups who are thinking about the pains of the customers, means there are 4 different boxes. If we see the value part that Mayank was discussing a lot, the value proposition part of any business idea, why startups are getting a lot of success and why they are burning their money, but still they are getting success beyond certain time, and that success is quite grand. So those who are thinking about the pains of the customer and trying to relieve the pains through the product. Like I can give you one example of aggregators. We have all these taxi aggregators here, and the taxi service was there long back. It is there, but there is a new taxi service which is aggregator, and we all are very, very comfortable with those taxi services. Like I can name also Ola, Uber, and all these things. We had certain problems with the existing taxi market when we book a taxi, we don't know where the taxi is, what is the condition of the taxi, what is the behavior of the driver, all those things we don't know, and we have certain pains. When we call the driver, we don't know where exactly he is, how much time he will take again. That is a pain of any customer. If somebody is trying to solve that pain, certainly it will be a good proposition for me, and I would be going with that business model. I would be going with that business, in fact. So pains, and then if you can solve the pains of the customer through pain relievers. And there are another 2 sets, gains and gain creators. If I can create some gains for the customer, though he is a person who is paying to me, but he always interested in getting something from the vendor. So those kind of gains, if I can empower him by his feedback, I can rate the taxi service. By his feedback, I can give low taxi rides to the taxi operator whose behavior is not good, who's not time punctual, whose taxi is not clean. So means what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to, as a startup, I'm trying to give more power to the customers.
Correct,
and
yes.
giving this power to the customer, customer feel quite empowered, and then he is associated with me for a longer duration. And if I can get a lot of customers of this kind, though my profit will be lesser in the beginning time, but if I can create a good kind of base later on, certainly I'm going to get.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And with that, we have come to an end to today's panel discussion, and we could cover different aspects of entrepreneurship. And my sincere thanks to all the panelists. Thank you very much for sparing your time. And I thank the organizers, as well as thank you very much viewers who are with us. And stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and please go the entrepreneurial way. And only that way you and your family, your society, and your nation can be the winner. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vaishali. I thank AICTE, MIC, and all those who have helped organizing this conference. Very, very useful, and we could share our views. Thanks for all that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.